If at all, AI gives you a much bigger canvas to dream big. And once again, businesses, especially as I see many leaders struggling with what AI can mean to them, because they get very confusing signals from the market about AI. And it's the CIO's role to translate AI into business impact, which is relevant to their business. So one has to be very careful. This is a time when there is a great ferment and turmoil. And in the next 5 to 10 years, you're going to see many large storied names fall and bite the dust, and new ones coming and finding their place. So if you think about candidates today, they come to our website, they apply for jobs. But what we're trying to do is, instead of just taking in an application and telling them we'll get back to you, we will have a virtual AI agent, which is a, a coach, a candidate coach, or a talent agent which is working on behalf of the candidates. And believe me, in every single industry, there are game changing stuff. We are only limited by our, uh, I would say, our imagination and our courage to step forward. We are always restricted or restrained because of the fear of failure. Now, AI represents such distinct difference in technology evolution and development that unless you understand it yourself, so I always say the leader has to devote a lot of time to understanding the mechanics.
Welcome to the Chief AI Officer Podcast,
where AI meets leadership.
And here is your host, Sanjay Puri.
Welcome to the CAIO Podcast, the podcast with Chief AI Officers, where we explore the journeys, insights, and challenges of leaders driving AI initiatives within large enterprises and government agencies. I'm your host, Sanjay Puri, and today we are honored to have Ganesh Ramakrishnan, Chief Information Officer at ManpowerGroup, a Fortune 144 company and world leader in workforce solutions. Ganesh brings over 30 years of international leadership experience in information technology and operations management. He's led transformational initiatives across the UK, Europe, and Asia, including his current role where he's responsible for technology globally at Manpower Group. Ganesh has been at the forefront of digital transformation, leading a record-breaking cloud migration from Manpower Group, moving them from their entire European footprint to the cloud in under a year. Ganesh, welcome to the CIO podcast.
Thank you so much, Sanjay. It's a pleasure to be on your show.
Wonderful. Ganesh, we have a global audience. These are folks who are either your peers, chief AI officers, CIOs, CTOs, operating in that kind of a role designation. We have AI entrepreneurs. We have upcoming chief AI officers, and this is a global audience. So let's start with your journey and background. You had a very impressive 30-year career spanning, different geographies, continents, and across different industries. Can you walk our audience through your journey from, mechanical engineering at IIT Madras, for folks who don't know, probably one of the most prestigious institutions in India, if not the world, and then leading technology transformation to a Fortune 144 company. What pivotal moments have shaped your path towards this AI and digital leadership role?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I think, as you can see, I have a very technical background as an engineer, but I rapidly forked out and did an MBA from the Indian Institute of Management in Bangalore, which again is a very prestigious organization, very similar to the IIT. And after that, I went into technology management, which is a little different from core technology or detailed coding and such like. And what I immediately got was very rich experience in banking. I joined an American bank, Wall Street bank called Citibank, which people in the US would know very well. And I spent the next, I would say, nearly 25 years in Citi, not in just one role, but in multiple roles, spanning technology, operations, transformation, large program management, and also setting up new businesses in Eastern Europe Northern Africa, and in fact in Russia too. So it was a wide variety of experience which shaped me and gave me a sense of how operations and technology can enable businesses. And so I got to really understand the strategic significance of these areas in building a business, which normally you think are, hygiene factors and things which everybody needs to do. But if done well, and if done with the right talent and strategically, it can be a very important competitive lever. So that's the important thing I understood. And especially, I'll give you one or two pivotal moments since you asked. One was that when we were setting up our infrastructure in Eastern Europe, we were setting up new businesses. Uh, the cookie cutter approach that we employed, which was we had all the components which we were able to put together to build a financial institution from scratch and launch a full fledged business within 1 year. It was just nothing short of amazing. And the reason we could do it is because we had all the components and we had all the talent, and we could bring it in and build up a full institution. And that really taught me, if you have all the underlying components and it's well defined, your technology stack is well defined, and your business model, which accompanies that, is well defined, you can really put together something very quickly and run it very professionally. So that was a very important moment for me. And that taught me the significance of these underlying disciplines.
Great. So I think what you're saying, Ganesh, is make sure your foundation, as you said, technology stack or underlying processes are really clearly defined. That's why within a year you could, uh, you know, have from beginning to end an operation in a new geography like Eastern Europe. So that I think is very, very helpful. Um, Ganesh, let's talk a little bit about the role. One of the things we do in this podcast, and because the role of the Chief AI Officer is a relatively new role, um, the CIO role which you're doing traditionally used to be a cost center, a support role. Obviously, now that has changed. How do you define the intersection now of traditional IT leadership role with AI and emerging technologies? And how has your role evolved to encompass not just more AI driven initiatives, but just the role has evolved where you were the CIO or the chief AI officer was buried like 6 layers down, maybe in some cases, even today, it could be underneath the CFO or things of that nature. But talk to our audience, your peers. How has that role changed?
Yeah, great question. And I think that there are two key levers here. One is the recognition that IT is not just a hygiene factor or table stakes, but it's a very critical component of competitive advantage and of enabling business. So, unlike in the past, IT becomes an extremely critical component for you to power your business. And that is a realization that CEOs have had and the boards have had. And that is why the CIO position has been elevated and often now reports in to the CEO and is part of the management team. Uh, the best way to think for the CIO themselves to think of their role is enabling and developing business capabilities. And what I mean by business capability is a mix of people, process, and technology. And there is no one better than the CIO to bring it all together. It needs a mix of business partnership, process partnership, and technology partnership to put together very tightly and have a business capability. And these kind of mix of business capabilities is what defines a company or a firm. And so, if you're able to put this really well together, you can get massive competitive advantage. And most companies today don't realize this well enough. And in the leadership team, they think of their business distinctly, differently from the process and technology. And that's a problem. So, if you bring this together And as I said, the CIO is in a very unique position to have that higher order thinking and to demonstrate that with their leadership, they can bring these disparate disciplines together and create a very powerful fusion. If you do this, then you're naturally elevated to the C suite because that's where this kind of thinking belongs, and you're able to shape something very distinctive. And in the age of AI, when the power of technology is now multiplied many fold, the kind of business capabilities you can think of is distinctly different. It's not only incremental. Normally, what happens, you make incremental improvements. You do something, you do it a little faster, you do it a little better. But today, you can do it completely differently. You can redefine the way you do it. And oftentimes, you can even redefine the kind of business you are in. If you have a broad enough definition, you can think of managing your overall mission in very distinctly different ways because AI allows you to do that. So, if at all, AI gives you a much bigger canvas to dream big. And once again, businesses, especially as I see many leaders struggling with what AI can mean to them because they get very confusing signals from the market about AI, and it's the CIO's role to translate AI into business impact, which is relevant to their business. There's no point in talking about LLMs and so on if you can't translate it into what it can do for you in business capabilities. So that's what I would say, kind of defines the role of the CIO.
So, Ganesh, you made a very important point, and because this is something within our podcast we talk a lot about, because this is something for your peers, but also the C-suite folks who are listening. So, you're saying that make sure with AI, it is the business that is getting impacted. Do you think that it is more of a transformation role that CIOs are playing from a business standpoint?
Absolutely. The role of the CIO and the reason why the CIO should be in the C suite is because they play a transformation role and they're able to think about the business strategically over a number of years and not about getting technology working. So that's the hygiene. They need to have technology working. They need to make the changes. They need to add on to new kind of features and so on. That doesn't change. But the fact that you're able to redefine, reshape the value chain, and think of it distinctly differently over time is really the role of the CIO. And they have to bring together not just the technology expertise, even the AI expertise, but also bring together other strands of the business to find out how AI and technology can impact them. The way, for example, every one of our businesses has an engagement with the customer or the client. The way we engage with clients can be fundamentally redefined through AI. The way it can be done needs to be exemplified by the CIO. They are the best positioned to be able to say, this is the art of the possible. I always use the word art of the possible. These are all possible because AI gives you the power. And we might make a few mistakes, but that should not prevent us from dreaming big and launching very courageously and boldly. If the CIO does not show that courage and that ambition, even aggression, then the rest of the C suite will just go to the lowest common denominator. They're not going to advance and progress. And then you're left to competitors who could do the same thing. Even worse, there are many startups who are redefining many businesses, especially knowledge working businesses are under attack today. The fact that you're very large and entrenched does not prevent you from being appended by much more smaller and AI native startups. So one has to be very careful. This is a time when there is a great ferment and turmoil. And in the next 5 to 10 years, you're going to see many large storied names fall and bite the dust, and new ones coming and finding their place with very distinctively different business models, but kind of fulfilling the same mission. So, unless you're paranoid, and the CIO has a very important responsibility in this, you will not survive. And that's why it's no longer a nice thing to do, it's a must.
So, Ganesh, you hit upon several very important points, and I'll pick on some of them and I'll come back to some of them later. You talked about the transformational nature of the CIO or the Chief AI Officer. You talked about how traditional businesses are really, call it, under attack or have to be under transformation. Otherwise, nimble AI first organizations are going to completely demolish them in the next 5 to 10 years. It could happen even sooner. Given that, Ganesh, a few quick questions on that. So today, the CIO should have not just, given he's a transformational leader, just having just the ML or data analytics or cloud or those kinds of skills is not enough. What other skills for aspiring CIOs or chief AI officers? What other skills should they have that will enable them to be a transformational leader?
So it's a plus plus. I think it's very useful for them to have a good understanding of the potential that all of these new technologies offer. So when you think about cloud as an example, cloud is a highly technical area and you can go very deep technically. But it's much more important for the CIO to understand strategically what does a cloud offer businesses. The way they need to think about the cloud is it allows them to build the organization on a pay-per-use model. Unlike in the past, where you had to make significant large investments and build the organization, here you could start small and you could expand as demand increases. That is fundamentally what cloud allows you to do. The second thing it allows you to do is to build the entire business logic in a very different way from the earlier paradigm where you had to buy or build software, monolithic software, bring it in. You could actually take smaller pieces and build your entire business value chain. So this is what cloud allows you to have. And the reason I say this is that the CIO needs to know the true significance of what these new technologies can do to their organization. So it's a strategic bent of mind on what technology means to their business model. That is what they need to realize really well. And they need to have a happy blend of some technical knowledge, the potential to ask the right questions to their teams and build it up, but they have a very keen understanding of what these means strategically and have a mind map to say that these technologies are going to power my businesses in a distinctive way. And you have a choice of multiple technologies and you need to be very clear about what is the path for your business, and that is the decision that you take in the C suite with the rest of the leaders. And then you pick and choose your model and build up your technology or digital core so that on that sound digital core you could then build up the layers which really are competitively differentiating. So we know data is important, analytics is important, and unless you have a core digital core which builds out the right kind of data, clean data, on top of which you can have analytics, on top of which you can have machine learning, and then on top of which you can have AI, you need to have the realization that you need to have a strong foundation. And based on that foundation, you can build it up. And all of these are fairly technical discussions which some of the C suite teams may not understand or appreciate. It's very important for the CIO to translate this into business terms and to make a compelling argument why certain investments are essential, especially what I call foundational investments, which are very difficult to justify. I mean, people can understand if you're enabling a business capability which is out in the market, but how do you justify cloud investments? They are infrastructural in nature. The ability to translate that into business speak, into business advantage, into competitive advantage is a very important skill for the CIO. It's not enough if they just know it. They need to be able to bridge that link or make that link between technology and business strategy.
So make the link between technology and business strategy in showing them the business advantage to the C-suite, I think is what you're saying is not just knowing about cloud, but how is that going to really add value to their business, I think is what you're saying, Ganesh. Ganesh, shifting a little bit now the discussion for your peers, Manpower Group is in the business of matching talent to opportunities. So let's talk about the current environment we are in. How are you leveraging? I mean, you're the largest in terms of human resource of workforce management. How are you leveraging AI and machine learning to revolutionize this core function, which is basically talent to opportunities? Can you talk a little bit about some examples that are really providing some tangible business value to you?
So we have positioned really well because we do a lot of knowledge work. So we use a lot of information about a talent. We also have information about the opportunities and what clients want. Our business is to match the right talent to the right opportunity, and we need to do it at scale, and we need to do it at the lowest cost. So this is a core business model. And if you look at it, if you think about AI is able to do cognitive work. Unlike in the past technologies which can't do cognitive work, AI is able to do cognitive work. And it is starting off with lower cognitive work, and then it's going to keep on going up the ladder. And so when we think about understanding the profile of millions and millions of resumes which represent talent, and look at thousands and thousands of opportunities which clients entrust to us, the ability to understand these two and then find out the right match is something that AI can help significantly. Let me give you some practical examples. So, what does a recruiter do? They do many tasks in trying to take a requirement from the client and put it out on different channels and allow talent to look at it. So they rewrite the job description, they kind of seek out different candidates. So we have tools, AI tools, which are able to understand at a very high level what a client wants and translate that into very specific language in multiple languages, not just in one language, and then throw it out into the web. So this ability to very quickly translate client needs into digital channels is what AI is enabling us to do automatically. The second, which is very ambitious, is the ability to take a resume which is written in multiple different formats. Every candidate writes their own resume in different formats, and understand really what are their core skills and break it down into a standard format. And in the way that it's broken down into a format, it allows machine learning algorithms to act on it. And if you think about it, we have a 75-year-old history of matching talent to opportunities. So we have very good history, and we know what a successful match looks like. And so if you think about machine learning algorithms, based on this history, they're able to learn really well. And once they've learned it for certain domains, they're able to apply it for new skills. So if you think about software development, as an example, we are one of the largest providers of IT talent in the world. Uh, and if you think about the past 20 years, and we look at our best recruiters who fill opportunities the best way, we take a look at their history, feed it into a machine learning algorithm, and then it is able to suggest on its own the right kind of candidates for every new IT role. And it helps our recruiters get rid of the grunt work of going through hundreds and hundreds of resumes and searching. So we have now deployed machine learning algorithms which only get better with time. And the reason we are able to do it is because we have a lot of data. Data is extremely important. It's not something a startup can do, even if they have machine learning engineers and smart people. They need a lot of data. And so we are well positioned as a large organization to leverage that. So this is just another example. And there is a third relating to pricing. If you think about the labor market is all about supply and demand, and it changes from one region to another, even within the same country. And to be able to understand those exact price points based on the dynamic nature of demand and supply, and then price our talent appropriately is a third one. And that also uses machine learning models. So I'm giving you a couple of examples, but I'll give you a fourth example, which is intimacy with candidates. So if you think about candidates today, they come to our website, they apply for jobs. But what we're trying to do is, instead of just taking in an application and telling them we'll get back to you, we will have a virtual AI agent, which is a, a coach, a candidate coach, or a talent agent which is working on behalf of the candidates. How nice it would be for a candidate to say, I got somebody working for me for my own interests, and trying to find the right job for me and giving me advice about what skills I need to do, and even counseling me if I'm on a low, and helping me get the next role. So we're trying to do that, and the large language models of today are an excellent fit for this kind of role. So some examples on how we can revolutionize this our area through AI.
So, Ganesh, that's very helpful. If I can just drill down because you raised some very important points. Um, when you talk about this talent agent, I find that very, very fascinating. So, if I'm a candidate, is that agent dedicated to me? Or is that what I think it is, an agent dedicated to me? It's my coach, because when I'm looking for a job, I have anxiety. Am I going to get this interview? Am I not? Is that agent kind of dedicated to my needs?
Exactly. So what AI is able to do is personalize the engagement and interaction. So it is an agent which is dedicated to you based on your personality, based on your skill sets, and based on your goals. And it provides you fairly personalized advice. So, as an example, you're a warehouse supervisor. But did you know that because of the skills that you have in terms of talking to people, you could get into a customer service agent, or you could get into some adjacent role that you were never thinking of, but with a little bit of training you could get into that. So this is what the personalized one-to-one agent can advise you on your career path, and based on your skill sets, your likes and dislikes, it can do it and then serve up the jobs that work for you. So this is what we're thinking of. And in my view, it's truly exciting because today, if you look at the workforce of today, they really are craving for something authentic, something personal. And searching for a job is really exhausting. It can be demoralizing because you get a door shut on you every day. So having somebody who has your back is something which is morally uplifting, and it kind of works for the candidate in practically as well. So this is an idea we are thinking about.
Now, you haven't rolled that out yet. It's something you're working on, right?
Yes, so some elements of it are already there, and we have some experience with the engagement part. We also have the digital channel that is so important because you need to have a digital core, you need to have data, you need to have the channels. We have all of that already done, and we have some early elements of that. But this entire, what I call the candidate journey or the associate journey, is something we are mapping out and seeing how we can enliven or light up different moments. And we already have actually internal program called my path, which is already the early aspects of a candidate journey for with a talent agent. So we have the concept of talent agent already, which engages with some of the candidates and provides them advice. But instead of having only recruiters provide advice, we're going to have virtual recruiters providing advice. And the advantage is that virtual recruiter is available to you 24 by 7.
Wow. And you can have as many, you could have millions of those as you want. So you could scale them up. So that's really a game changer. And this is also for your peers to learn that, it's basically you're augmenting what your human advisors probably are doing and giving that 24 by 7 ability, because probably a lot of these candidates want to talk to them after work because when they are available, etc. And the agent, these AI agents probably are available 24 by 7 for them.
Exactly. And our view, Sanjay, clearly is that exactly as you said, AI augments human beings. So you have the human at the end of it. They provide even more personalized and expert advice. But when they are not available, their AI personas are available. So they kind of bridge the gap in terms of timing, in terms of focus, and so on. And they serve up a lot of stuff for actual human beings. So when it comes to the final job, they'll be talking to a human being, they'll be talking to a recruiter. So recruiters cannot be available all through the day at every point of time for all the candidates. So we think that if played really well, they can be powerfully augmenting humans. And we believe that a human in the loop is very critical, but the rest of the loop is created with AI based enablers and technologies. So this happy coexistence between the two, I think, can be a winner. And I would invite all listeners, my colleagues and other people in the industry, to really think about game changing areas in their own industries. And believe me, in every single industry there are game changing stuff. We are only limited by our uh, I would say our imagination and our courage to step forward. We are always restricted or restrained because of the fear of failure. Because when you do something dramatic with a new platform or technology like AI, there are bound to be challenges, there are bound to be failures. It's never going to be smooth. But if you don't start early, and this is a very important message that I have, and this is just my practical experience, your early steps are never going to be easy. It's not going to be uniform. You will have more failures than successes, but through that you learn personally and organizationally. You build muscles. And AI technology keeps changing fast. What was not possible today in 6 months is possible. But you're thinking about it, you've tried many ways. So you're on top of it. And that's what allows you to progress as rapidly as the technology. And when there are disruptors who come after you, you're well positioned because you built those muscles. So that's why I say there is no better time to start than now. Even if technology keeps changing, doesn't matter. Start now, work with it. Don't bother about failures. Do your POCs, do small experiments, but dream big. Have a very clear focus on what you want to do, and don't dream small. Don't think small. Is what I would say.
No, that's a great message. Dream big, start now, and don't worry about failure because a lot of folks, your peers are worried, what are the consequences, what happens to my brand, and things of that nature. Um, Ganesh, to that point, one of the questions that came in from your peers was, Ganesh, that you probably come across so many different AI pilots that are possible. How do you prioritize which ones to work on, which ones to implement? Do you have like a scorecard, across regions and across different areas that you work on? That was a question one of your peers wanted to know.
So let me confess that the general experience of large companies is that there was tremendous excitement when the LLMs came and everybody started dabbling with it. There were hundreds of experiments all around the organization, but that did not have a material impact on the bottom line. Everybody was doing something. People were doing PowerPoints and transcription of calls and writing essays and writing emails and so on. That's all nice. It's good to be a little better than before, but they didn't have material impact. So what I would say is that focus on 4 or 5 big themes. Find out those 4 or 5 big themes that you can hunker down, double down on, and they would be thematic. As an example, in our industry, that candidate journey is a big theme. Revolutionizing the candidate journey is a big deal, and you won't be able to solve all of it on day one. You have a dream, you take it step by step, but you know that over a couple of years you're well set to solve it. In every one of the industries, I'm sure C-suite people and CIOs are able to identify those 4, 5, 6 areas they want to really double down. So identify, ensure that there is good business alignment and agreement, and the other business, sales, marketing, and the functions and the brands, they agree that these are the ones to think about. And definitely it should be led from the CEO. And if you agree on that and the organization comes behind it, then you can create something truly groundbreaking. And if you don't do it because people are skeptical, or the CEO says, hey, it's not a big deal, then they'll find to their discomfiture that years down the line, they will get taken over or kind of superseded by competition. So this is the time to do it, and there is no choice at all.
So what you're saying is pick on 4 or 5 big things, make sure there is business alignment, make sure the CEO is behind it, and then now is the time to go about doing it. I think that's the message from Ganesh. Ganesh, you've written about the power of the AI data factory models. How did you build the data foundation, which is necessary, obviously, for AI success at Manpower? And you talk about, that how data is key. And what advice would you give to organizations that are just starting on this data journey?
So I think it's been oft repeated that data is everything, and I'm sure all CIOs know that. And I would expect even before the AI revolution, we have had the data revolution. So this is not new at all. So they should be well on their journey in ensuring that they have reasonably good data. Now, in the old days, the only way to get the data was to bring it all together in a central place, construct a data warehouse, clean it, have very structured data, and then utilize it. Thankfully, today that's no longer the case. You could have distributed data. You could have data which is unstructured. You could have data which is not very clean. But now we have technologies to build that into a data fabric. We have technologies which can go and query and interrogate the data and understand it from where it is without going into lengthy cleanups. So all those are there today. So we are actually very fortunate. So we should not waste time. At the very least, CIOs should know where their data is situated and what the data means. That's extremely important. They should have an inventory of the key data they have. And then there are technologies which can build the fabric and build on top of it. So, not a moment to waste because data is the key. And your data is your competitive advantage, especially if you're a large organization which has scale, which has been around for a long time. Well, the one thing that you have, which startups don't have, is data. So, better hang on to it. And I would say be very careful about sharing the data with outside. There are lots of people who will come knocking on your doors, wanting to provide you technology, but sometimes when they provide technology, they take out the data and utilize it. And they don't, it doesn't mean that they take the data and publish it elsewhere, but they take the intelligence behind the data. They build models on that, and the models are then utilized with other customers, other places, even competitors. So it's very crucial that you just don't just own the data, but also the intelligence that comes out of the data.
So I think, Ganesh, what you're saying, which is a very important point, is for legacy businesses, AI or data is your competitive advantage versus these startups because that's a power that you have, and be careful how and where you share it, especially the intelligence behind that data. So I think that's a fantastic point that you're making, Ganesh. Ganesh, obviously, talent and AI talent is a big, big issue right now. So, talk to your peers about how do you structure your technology teams to support your AI initiatives? What skills do you look for or you prioritize when hiring? And how do you create this culture of innovation and experimentation? Because this is also kind of a way for you to pitch why some of the best and the brightest should, coming out of school of Carnegie, Stanford, MIT, should be joining Manpower. We want to democratize talent. So this becomes a little bit of your way to talk about some of the things you look for and some of the interesting things that are happening.
Great question. So the funny thing is that with AI coming in, I think what is becoming more and more important are critical thinking skills rather than deep knowledge of techniques, of languages, of libraries, of deep AI algorithms, because AI is able to substitute for that. But what you need is critical thinking skills and a good appreciation of what is a possibility of what AI has to offer. I'll give you a good example. We have heard about agentic AI, and agentic AI is a way which can take processes and kind of automate them. And even 6 months before, you needed a lot of skill sets to write an agent, to develop an agent. That's no longer true. You need to know the understanding of the process. Agents can be now built by AI itself. Any of the current large language models are able to build fairly good agents, and you need just higher order skills to be able to test the agent, ensure that it's ethical, and then deploy them. So, but you need to have the appreciation of what agents can do. So, what I would say is that the culture that we need in our teams, and let me tell you that you would think that technology teams are going to be the best and jump into AI headlong. That's not true. They are also very traditional. They are also orthodox. If somebody has been in a particular way managing a particular application for 20 years, they would tend to do it the same way, even if much better techniques were there. So the ability to rethink how technology is developed, maintained, deployed is a cultural change that needs to be done, and the cultural change has to be led by the people in the front, the leaders. The leaders need to do it, and I spend a lot of time in going back to college days where I learn about all of these, and I learn to apply on how the software development lifecycle can be animated by AI and so on, so that I can demonstrate to the teams, and then they take heart and they take courage to flip and change. So critical thinking skills are critical. That doesn't, and the other part is seeding AI related skill set, higher order skill set within the team is important. AI skill sets are not easy to find, they are very expensive and difficult to retain. So, what is important is that to be able to attract that, you need to be able to demonstrate what you can achieve with this. The amount of data you have and the ambition that you have is what brings people to you. And if you're able to demonstrate it, and we think in Manpower Group, we have both. We have massive amounts of data. You know, we put in between 2 and 3 million people to work every year. We have more than 50 million resumes in our database. And we have the ability to understand the performance of the people we put to job work. So we have tremendous amount of data, and we have the ambition to reshape the industry. That's what brings talent, because they look at this and say, this is what I would not get in a startup because I won't get the data. So I think that's very key to kind of set your stall appropriately.
This is awesome. So, to people who are looking at manpower or other things, I think Ganesh makes a very important point. Uh, he's looking for critical thinking skills because that's probably the number one thing that happens. But to his advantage, what he's saying is if you have uh, great AI skills, that's fantastic. But you also need a sandbox of data to play with to use those skills. And he says they've got that data in huge numbers, 2, 3 million, people every year, 50 million resumes. That's data that not too many startups can talk about. So, for you to apply your AI skills, it's an incredible sandbox. I think it's a great point, Ganesh, and I hope our folks who are listening in pay attention to that. Ganesh, just switching topics a little bit. This comes down to you know Manpower's group's role in employment and workforce solutions. Obviously, how do you approach the whole issue of AI ethics and bias mitigation? Because obviously, that's one of the big areas in terms of hiring that people talk about, where AI could probably have some issues. What frameworks do you use to ensure that the AI systems that you're using and are built are fair and transparent?
Um, Another very great question. And if you think about it, like you said, we are at the center of this because we are one of the world's largest private sector employers. Like I said, maybe 2.8 to 3 million people we hire every year. We provide employment, and doing it in a fair, ethical, explainable manner is really, really important. And no matter what AI systems we make, we should be able to demonstrate Not just tell it ourselves, be able to demonstrate that those decisions that even these models make are ethical, they're explainable, and there's no bias. And so it's very important that as we build the models, we keep this by design. So you don't just build it and then test it for bias later. You ensure that as part of your development process, as part of building it, this is built by default, built by design. At every point, when you're developing models, when you're developing large language models to analyze, you always keep this at the forefront of your mind. And then we have a set of ethical rules which govern everything that we do. One part is our kind of ethical standards, but the other part is also the technical standards. So we kind of look at what are the uh, technical protocols, the red teaming, the compliance related items that we have. So we have put together what we call a risk framework for AI development. And no matter we build or buy, everything has to go through the same risk framework. So in a way, we have centralized our standards and governance, but we have decentralized the development. So people can develop AI applications across the organization, but every one of them has to go through the same governance standards and principles. So this way, we are able to manage this in a very intuitive manner.
So I think, Ganesh, what you're saying is there is a risk uh, mitigation framework that you have, whether it's an external solution, internal solution that goes through it, and you created those standards to make sure you don't have to deal with these issues, especially given that you're one of the largest employers in the world, as you said, 2.8 to 3 million new employees a year. That's good to know, and especially for your peers who have large employees, to make sure that these things get taken care of. Ganesh, another question that came in from one of your peers was, how do you measure the ROI and business impact of your AI initiatives? What metrics matter the most to you? And how do you communicate? Because in some cases, there might not be financial ROI. How do you communicate the AI value to the board or the stakeholders or the C-suite folks? Because that's a challenge for some of your peers right now.
Yeah, I mean, I can understand the difficulty because this is a very different way of doing things. But I would suggest to all of them that the current set of, I mean, you have a set of business metrics, SLAs, KPIs, and financial metrics. Whether it's AI or non AI technology, the way of measuring it is not very different. Either it has to do the job at a lower cost, or it has to contribute to top line growth, or it has to ensure that the experience is much better, or it has to manage controls and manage risk much better. So these are very critical components for any business. And to the extent you're able to impact one or more of them positively, you have the ability to tell a story. The key thing is that you need to be able to have very clear metrics. So when you start out an AI program or AI project, success is not defined by putting in the AI technology and making it work. Success is defined by achieving a business outcome. So the project should be not AI, it should be what is a business outcome, and incidentally enabled by AI. So it's no different from a non AI program, it's the same. So focus on outcomes, don't focus on the underlying AI at this point of time, would be my advice.
So focus on business outcomes, I think, is what you're saying, um, is going to be the key. Whether it is, as you said, it could be saving, reducing costs, increasing revenue, or reducing or making compliance more possible, I think, is what you were saying. So those are very important points. Ganesh, in reading some of your LinkedIn posts, you frequently encourage women to apply for technology roles. So, Why is diversity particularly important in AI development, according to you?
First is women have been traditionally underrepresented in technology, um, and I think it's unconscious bias, unintentional. Women also self-select themselves sometimes out of STEM related disciplines and so on. But even more so than before, Sanjay, uh, AI systems are being made in the image of the people who develop it. That's very important to know. They are highly flexible in the way they are designed, and that can lead to a very different consequence. And having diversity of thinking is very critical. So, having a broad set of thinking beyond very narrow technical thinking is very important when you're developing AI. And because of the power of the platform, um, this is going to reflect on human decisions. For the first time, we are encoding a lot of human decisions into AI. And the way people think is what is being reflected in AI platforms. So that's why you need diversity of thought. And you don't have a monocultural thinking, which just puts you in a particular direction without you even intending it. So, even more so than before, we need to have diversity.
So diversity, especially given, I think what you're saying is with AI uh, really reflecting who we are, it becomes a lot more critical to have diversity of thought in there, which is very important. You also, Ganesh, have emphasized, and this is for our upcoming leaders uh, in the C-suite, etc. You emphasize the importance of continuous learning, even studying transformer models for Gen AI. How do you stay current with rapidly evolving AI technologies, and how do you scale this learning across your organization?
So, if you think about 10, 15 years, uh, it appeared that once you reached a certain level of seniority, you were leading teams. You didn't need to be in touch with technical advances, constantly, updating yourself because your teams would do it, and you had to only think about strategy, C-suite dynamics, and so on. And that kind of thinking um, has kind of met its end because of AI. Now, AI represents such distinct difference in technology evolution and development that unless you understand it yourself, so I always say the leader has to devote a lot of time to understanding the mechanics. And it's not enough to have just a peripheral view, a top line understanding, which a CEO can have. The CEOs need not be technical. The CIO has a duty to actually get into the details to understand how this entire technology is built up. And that will also allow you to know what are the limitations. Because, we shouldn't confuse AI into thinking it's like some superpower. Why do AI platforms hallucinate? Why would they go wrong? Why are they not good at numbers? These are things that you would instinctively know if you understood how transformer architecture is, how LLMs are, and how each evolution of LLMs try to solve some of the problems, but they don't solve it fully. And real reasoning and thinking still eludes even the best LLMs today. Why is that? So if you understand these limitations from ground up, you'll be very thoughtful in designing it. And so when vendors come knocking on your door and claiming all kinds of things, you're able to challenge them appropriately. You're able to, in the short term, think of the right way to negotiate the path while having very ambitious long term goals. So I think that power liberates you, sets you free, and is able to kind of guide the organization's path in a very pragmatic manner.
So learning is very important for internal growth as well as dealing with, I think, external vendors and setting the path is what Ganesh is saying. Ganesh, as someone who's leading technology at a workforce solutions company, um, the future of workforce is a big question that comes up uh, in Washington and major capitals. How do you see AI changing the future of work?
Yeah, I mean, we all know that AI is going to fundamentally change the nature of human work and human labor. We know that certain industries are going to be impacted a lot more than others. But we believe, and I also personally believe, like every other fundamental technology advancement in the past, and AI has often been compared to electricity because it is um, a multifunctional technology. It's not just for one area; it impacts every area like electricity does. Even when that happened, we found new roles, new jobs coming up, old ones dying, and new ones coming up. So I would suggest that as some areas and some industries get impacted, that the people involved there learn new skills. They get empowered by AI. They get augmented by AI, and it's much easier to learn a new skill when you're augmented by AI than before, and face the future with confidence and not fear. So as things go and we get a radical restructuring of the labor market, you'll have as many new roles as the old ones that get destroyed. So it kind of has a way of settling down. And these new roles are available for knowledge workers. But underlying all of this, I would think is one is develop your critical thinking skills and develop learning as a lifelong activity. Every single day, one has to learn. I really mean it. You cannot, just like, you go to the gym every day and it's like, hey, you need to exercise every day or at least 3 or 4 times a week. You need to learn every day or multiple times a week. And so if you keep up to it at every level, whether it's a junior person, senior person, doesn't matter, they can all learn. Everybody can learn. I think you'll be very well suited for the future. You can face the future with confidence.
So spend time on self-learning, like you go to the gym every day or at least several times a week, and face the future with confidence. And this is coming from the gentleman who's leading technology at the leading workforce company in the world. Finally, Ganesh, for our listeners, just briefly, which emerging AI capability, I think I know the answer, but you think will disrupt workforce technology or human resource technology? It could be multimodal agents, synthetic data, any
I
of them,
I
if
think
you were to
I,
pick one.
I yeah, I think agentic AI, which is just at its infancy now, is going to reshape fundamentally how multiple industries work. Because agents will have the ability to do back office activities, transactional activities, but also high value added activities. They can also interact with customers, people who consume technology. So it has the ability to spread. It has the ability to interact with our physical world through robots as well. So I think agentic AI is at its infancy now, and it'll see a rapid development over the next years. So watch the space.
Fantastic. So, to our listeners, watch for agentic AI solutions, especially in workforce solutions. But as Ganesh said, it could be across many, many industries. Ganesh, finally, we have a lightning round, which is basically a one-word answer to make things a little more interesting after a long conversation with you. So, are you ready for that?
Sure, go for it.
Okay. So, Ganesh, cloud or on-prem?
Cloud.
Python or R?
Personally, Python, but I'm sure many people would have their preferences.
Okay. Well, this is about your preference. And like I said, hey, sometimes Python, sometimes R. But anyway, build or buy AI solutions.
Build. And I say that because of what I said earlier about,
Okay.
hey, don't lose your data, keep it with you.
Keep it with you. Yep. Supervised or unsupervised learning?
Actually, each one has its pluses. I mean, there's no need to choose one over the other because each one has its strengths based on the context. So I would just say pick one based on context.
Pick one based on context. Okay. Open source or proprietary AI?
For the most part, open source, because I fear the proprietary solutions are going to have very short shelf life.
Very short shelf life. Okay. Finally, since you pushed agents, and you can skip it, but we are still going to ask you, A2A or MCP for agentic standards? We're now going deep into agentic standards.
So my preference would be MCP because I think it gives you the ability to interact with the world at large. But I can understand that agent to agent communication is also going to happen. So it's not that one is going to displace the other. There's a place for both, but between the two, MCP.
Okay, great. MCP preference, so to speak. Ganesh, thanks so much firstly, for being so candid and so generous with your insights, and also your incredible journey, your perspective on building AI capabilities within such a large established organization, but also being candid that, hey, large organizations, if they don't change, startups are going to change. The business models are changing dramatically in the next 2 to 5, 10 years. But you're also keeping focus on teams, human values, and also ethical consideration, which provides really invaluable guidance to our listeners. And you've done incredible cloud migrations and demonstrated that AI transformation requires technical excellence and exceptional leadership. And you talked about what skills are necessary for being a leader in the AI world, which is truly transformative. And again, your point about continuous learning and diversity in teams really offers a blueprint, especially for aspiring AI leaders and for our listeners who are navigating their own AI journeys, whether you are in Fortune 1000, Fortune 100 companies, or emerging organization. Ganesh's experience shows you that the intersection of technology and human potential is where true transformation really happens. Thank you, Ganesh, for being part of the CIO podcast and contributing to our growing community of leaders. And to our listeners, thank you for joining us. And if today's conversation inspired you or provided you valuable insights, please share it with your network and help us democratize AI leadership. Until next time, keep innovating and leading AI transformation in your organization. Thank you so much, Ganesh. This was fantastic. Really learned a lot and really appreciate your candor.
Thank you so much for having me on your show. Thank you.